Hello. Hi. Let me just make myself comfortable and just say I am Olivia and a very warm welcome to Profits and Wealth. Oh wow. Like I've said, it's always good to be back and always good to be here. Today I want to speak to you as an African man, an African woman. And I want to ask you, do you know who you are? Do you know who have come before you? Do you understand what your ancestors had to go through so that you and I can sit comfortably today in relative safety if you are lucky enough? Do you know who you are? Let me show you who you are. Let me remind you who you are. Man, woman of the African soil. I want to read a quote. I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa, and I have not seen one person who is a beggar. I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country. Such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture. For if the Africans think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. That was Lord Macaulay's address to the British Parliament on the 2nd of February, 1835. That is who you are. That is where you come from. I will read his words again. He says, I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa. This was in 1835. When our history books are telling us that we were savages, backwards, that we were too stupid to do anything, and we were only saved by colonialism. And this is what Lord Macaulay said. I have traveled across the length and breadth of Africa, our country, our continent. I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country. In 1885. So let's ask, 1835, he said that in the British Parliament. So let's find out who was this man. The person who said this, he was Thomas Babington Macaulay, 1st Baron Macaulay. He was born on the 25th of October, 1800, and he died on the 28th of September, 1859. He was a British historian and Whig politician. He served as a secretary at war between 1839 and 1841. And he came to Africa in 1835. And as the Paymaster General between 1846 and 1848, Macaulay, Thomas Babington Macaulay, is the same person who also said he has read Sanskrit and Arabic, the work of Sanskrit, of Arabic scholars. And he said, his words, not mine, that he doesn't believe, he has read all of them, but he doesn't believe that all the knowledge of the Arabic world of them and the Sanskrit is worthy to fill even one shelf of English literature. Lord Macaulay made it his life's work to prove and to indoctrinate every country that wasn't white so that they can believe that English, that British education was superior. He started it in Africa and even in India. Why am I talking about this today? I have seen in my own country, in South Africa, how the color of your skin can determine how you are being treated, how you are being viewed, and also your education. There is still this thinking and the belief actually, especially amongst the black middle class in South Africa. I cannot speak for other countries. I can only speak for South Africa and what I have observed. That you have to go to certain universities for you to be recognized as an educated person. And obviously, those universities, of course, we have followed British education. We have followed American education. So the perception is that as Africans, we are not able to create anything. That we are not able to develop, to create, to invent, to be innovative. And many of us have bought into that. Do you know your history? Do you know where you come from? Do you know what your ancestors had to go through for you to be here today, this very moment? We need to live a life that honors our ancestors for what they had to go through for us to be here. And just think about it. Just think about it. Life is so fragile that any decision, the times that our forefathers lived, they survived so much. And just one wrong decision could have prevented me or you to be here. But because we are here in this generation, right now, we need to understand our power. We need to understand where we come from. We need to understand whose blood flows in our veins. And we must stop asking for permission to be, to do, to live. You know, there is this thing of Africans, many of us, like we are waiting for the Savior. I can remember growing up and watching videos where it's been on TV when they shown countries where there's famine, wars here in Africa, and Africans crying out to the West to come and help them, to come and save them. No one is coming to save you. No one. religion, politics, education, and the media are all part of the indoctrination of the African mind. But just think about it. This is not unique to Africa. It's just we as a continent, there are 54 countries in Africa. But we as a continent, when we are being portrayed to the West or wherever, someone who's not from Africa are still under the impressions that where I'm sitting, there are lions on my doorstep. I am still drinking water out of a river. We don't have roads. I watched an interview where they asked an author, where do Africans buy books? That is the ignorance that exists about this beautiful continent with a vibrant people and the beautiful landscapes. You have to experience an African sunset. And what do we do to promote and to advertise our continent, our countries to the rest of the world? What do we do? This is the platform that we have, YouTube, social media, we have to portray Africa's beauty. Or do we still buy into the indoctrination of religion, of politics, education, and of the media? When I look at my country, South Africa, when you open the newspaper right now, this moment, you are going to read about crime, load shedding, politics, corruption. That is the perception that's been created about our country. And yet, many people, when they come here, they see a different story. I'm not saying that everything it's roses or it's fine and it's rosy and it's happy. We have our issues. But it's not unique to Africa. But what we need to wake up to, what we need to understand is that no one is coming to save us. Because I was watching a video of a young African leader praising the Chinese. Not too long ago, it was the West. So when are we as Africans going to stand up and trust each other to start rebuilding not just our countries, but our continents? It's interesting when you look. Many, and I've seen this firsthand, when a white person is in charge, the respect and authority that person gets, it differs from when a black person is in charge. Not because the black person is less competent, but it's almost like the indoctrination and the brainwashing goes so deep and it's so embedded in us that automatically we still hold a white person in higher regard. And that is the legacy of what we carry. That is the legacy of what we have to fight. I've heard people saying to me, they don't put their children in creches if there are no white people in charge. That is the level of indoctrination. You know, one thing, like our government, we don't have a leader, by the way. We don't. We are leaderless in our country and we've accepted it. That's why it's up to you and to me as South Africans and as Africans to stand up and do something where we are. But right now we don't have a leader. You need to start leading where you are. You need to start leading with what you do, how you react, and how you solve your problems. There's no shortage of inventors. in Africa. There's none. But this I need to ask from our African leaders. Why is it when an African child of this soil invents something, you don't support them? They have to go to Germany, they have to go to America to get the recognition that you as the leaders were supposed to give to them. Do you think, honestly, if you invented anything and in your own country you're not being recognized, and someone from the West offers you money, support, do you think you would say in Africa? So what is at the heart of our problems? Because we can blame colonialism for all we like. For all we like, we can blame it. We cannot deny the damage that has been done because of colonialism. We cannot. The battle, it's not out there, it's in here. How we perceive ourselves. Do you stand proud and tall as an African? Do you believe that you are capable and competent? Let's put race out of the question. Let's just look at you as an African. And this is another interesting thing. It didn't end here. Remember, I just want to read what he said again. Mr. Lord Macaulay. I just want to read this one piece that I would like to put your attention on. He said, let me just see. Unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is his spiritual and cultural heritage, and therefore I propose that we replace her old and ancient education system, her culture. For if the Africans think that all that is foreign and English is good and greater than their own, they will lose their self-esteem, their native culture, and they will become what we want them, a truly dominated nation. Do you see how they have succeeded? Do you see? This happened in 1835. And still today, we are dealing with what was started in 1835. We come from a great lineage of great people. We come from an ancestry of proud people. People with high moral values of such caliber said that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation. What can you do as an African to rebuild, to take back what was stolen, to become who you truly are, to free your mind from captivity, to emancipate yourself from the lies that you've been told? You know, as a South African, I have to say this. In South Africa, black and white, it doesn't just stop there. Then, amongst black, there's black, Indian, colored. It won't make sense to you. I am a colored person, and I can say this to you. Being raised as a colored, I was made to feel ashamed of my blackness. I was made to feel ashamed of who I truly was, where I was born, and where I come from. I was made to feel ashamed of the texture of my hair. the color of my skin, because I didn't look white enough. There was no white people around to remind me of this. But these come from the people I grew up with. And that is the story of many. It's not unique to me. Because we have been so indoctrinated that white is better. That we are doing the job that Lord Macaulay started in 1835. You can go to any country in the world, any country. Where is your blackness being celebrated? Where are your roots being celebrated? Why must we be apologetic about who we are? Why must we deny who we are? There are only two races in this world. It's white and black. Those are the two races. But yet, the divisions amongst us. And let's look. Why is Africa being portrayed as a poor, begging, pathetic, hopeless continent? And yet, we have so many riches. Do you know that almost anything can grow in Africa? We are bound and tied to the soil of this continent. That in itself, it makes us rich. You don't need validation. You don't need confirmation from anyone to remind you who you are. You were born in greatness. You were born in power. Right? Like if we are so pathetic, if we really were so poor and so helpless, why is it that so many other countries are still coming to Africa? Think about this. Wherever you are in the world, how many poor communities are there? How many people are there who are struggling? Do you see businesses and countries flocking there to help them, to uplift them? No, you don't. But yet they come to Africa. And you Africans, you must stop relying on aid. You must stop. Because we have the capacity, we have the ability, the competence, the knowledge, the skill to build a thriving continent. But of course we can't. If we are still fighting about the borders that was determined in the 1800s. Not by us. Not by us. By Europeans. So how can we even begin to rebuild our continent if we can't even stand united? We are Africans. To come back to my story as a colored person, and I do not entertain the race issue. I don't. But I'm telling the story in context so that you can understand how deep the indoctrination goes. As a colored person, few colored people identify as black. Black people are looking down on colored people. Colored people are looking down on black people. Indian people, colored people, black people, we all have something to say about each other. And where did the indoctrination start? In 1835. You have to give them their due for starting a process and never letting it go. But you need to ask yourself, what is it about you that the powers that be want you to forget who you are? A person of high moral value. You have to go back to your ancient education system. You have to return to your true culture. You have to remember your ancestors. And you have to be confident in who you are, with or without an education. Because an education is another form of indoctrination. It's another form of division between the haves and the have-nots. It's interesting. We all want to help the poor. What makes you poor? What is the definition of poverty? And yet, the same people who sit around a table and discuss how we are going to help these poor Africans, when an African comes up with an idea, it's like, no, wait, you'll get your turn to talk. But you come to help, but you're not prepared to listen. And that is in all communities where there are educated people and where there are so-called poor people. I say this because to me, I don't see a poor person. You need to free your mind. And education should not be your excuse for not knowing who you are. Because if you have a cell phone and you have an internet connection, you can research the true history of Africa. We come from master mathematicians, scientists, astrologers. We come from a nation of scholars. That is the ancient education system. But here, Lord Macaulay say, we must make them believe that our system is superior, and it's happened even today. If you hear, I have studied at Oxford or Harvard, and then someone else has studied at an African university, which one are you going to hold higher in regard? See how deep the indoctrination goes. Can you see? Your mind has been captured, so you now need to uncapture your mind. The question is, how do you do it? Where do you start? Because that is your responsibility. You are an African. You are a man and a woman of the soil. You are connected to the very earth you are standing on. You're not just someone. You are bigger than what you realize. You are what you think you are. You need to remember that. You need to know who you are. And like, it has nothing to do with violence. This is about educating yourself. Know thyself. Know who you are. Because if you know who you are, you will not be indoctrinated. There's a world shift. There's a major shift happening. There's a world order. There's a change in the world order. Where will you fit in as an African? Where will you fit in as an African? Remember who you are. Remember who you are.